So if you work in cloud security, specifically in AWS, and you care at all about the security of your account, then you need to set up CloudTrail. And so basically, everything that happens in AWS, whether it's the console, the CLI, and SDK, all of those are API actions that get tracked by CloudTrail. And so by setting up CloudTrail and being able to query those logs, we can track not only normal activity, but abnormal activity, malicious activity. If someone deletes data, we can see that. If they modify a role, give themselves admin access, we can see all those types of activities using CloudTrail. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how to set up CloudTrail. Let's get into it. Okay, so within the AWS console, if you come into the CloudTrail section here, this is where we're going to kick it off. So how it works is it captures API information across your accounts. We can store it in an S3 bucket, which is what we'll set up today. We can also set up alarms. We can query the information, act upon it, and we can just, review the information as well. So CloudTrail is going to give us some default data here. If we come over to the event history tab, now, as we can see, we have a bunch of events in here. These are all what's known as management events. And the last 90 days of management events get captured in your account and are viewable right here in the event history. So as you can see, a management event is something like deleting a bucket, running a query, creating a bucket, updating a CloudTrail, creating a policy, things like that. So those are management events, but what this does not capture are what's known as data events. Now, data events are, for example, and we'll do this later in the video here, but within an S3 bucket, if you read that data, if you upload that data, if you delete that data, those things are captured as data events. Those things do not show up here in this event history. So by creating a CloudTrail, which is what we'll set up today, is we immediately gain two things. We gain greater visibility of the actions happening within our account, because we'll see not only these management events, but we'll also capture those data events. And then two, we'll be able to capture more than 90 days worth of logs because it's all being stored in our S3 bucket. So let's come over here to trails and we'll create that CloudTrail. So when we create that trail, it's going to ask us for a trail name. I'm going to name mine CloudTrail, and then we'll choose to create a new S3 bucket. Encryption will be enabled. We do need to give the KMS key an alias, so I'll call it CloudTrail. Log file validation, that's just like an integrity check. CloudWatch logs, we are going to check here, and this is going to allow us to query our CloudTrail logs from the S3 bucket. So we'll hit new here, and then new. We do have to give this role a name. I'll call it CloudTrail. And then we'll click on next. And then right here, we choose the event type. So as I said before, we'll capture the management events. We'll also capture the data events. We'll scroll down, read and write API activity. We can optionally exclude KMS or RDS API events if we would like to. Basically, this generates, both of these things generate a ton of events. And while you're not paying for the generation of those alerts, you are paying for the storage of the S3 bucket. For now, I'll leave those unchecked. Down here at data events, we'll switch to the basic event selector, and then we will choose the data event source of S3. Basically, we're going to say, hey, we want to capture data events for S3, both read and write. And then let's go ahead and click on next here. Verify everything looks correct, but we'll scroll down here and click on create trail. Now, once that trail is created, we can see the S3 bucket that the CloudTrail is logging to. So let's go ahead and click on this. And as you can see, we do have some information in here. So if we click on CloudTrail here, now both the management events and the data events can take up to 15 minutes to populate in CloudTrail. So we're just going to give this some time. And in the meantime, let's go ahead and create a new S3 bucket. So I'll make a new tab here and we'll create a new bucket. And we're doing this because we want to capture data events for our S3 buckets. And so we'll give it a name here. Make sure that this bucket name is unique. It needs to be unique across all of AWS. And then we'll scroll down, leave everything as default, and then create the bucket. Now, once your bucket is created, let's go into it here, and then let's upload some files. So I do have some handy. Drag and drop these over here. Now you can upload whatever files you want. It doesn't matter. We're just trying to generate some events. So in this case, when I upload these files here, this will generate a data event in CloudTrail. Once that's done, close that out. And then I'm going to quickly open up each of these files one by one just to generate some data. And once you've done that, let's go ahead and delete this secrets.txt here. And then we do have to type in permanently delete just to confirm that we do want to delete it. And once this is done, we should have generated some data alerts. We'll come back to our CloudTrail bucket. Let's do a refresh here and just see how that's coming along. We do have a folder here and a year, month, date. And then as you can see here, we have a bunch of files coming in. Now these are all zip files, but we can view them in the browser. So if we click one here, we'll open it. This is what a CloudTrail log looks like. Now, of course, this is not super usable or readable or actionable. So what we're gonna do is we'll close this out and then we're gonna hop into CloudWatch and we'll be able to query the logs with CloudWatch. So we'll click on log groups here, and we created a log group when we made the CloudTrail configuration. So we'll select the box here and then do view in logs insights. Now by default, this gives us a default query. We can go ahead and run this query. And as you can see, we do have some information returning, only 2 records at this time. It does take some time for all of those events to show up in CloudTrail and then likewise be able to query on them. And if we select one of these, we can see basically that same log file that we saw earlier, but a little bit more, broken out and readable in this case. So what we'll do is we'll give this probably about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll go into some other queries where we'll be able to query on those data events where we uploaded objects or deleted objects from our bucket. All right, once we've given it some time for CloudWatch to catch up here, I've updated the query to return a couple different fields, and then we are looking for the event category of data, which is the data events, and then I've narrowed it down to the bucket name that we were using to test with. So this was the Tyler test, the one that has those files that we uploaded and read and deleted earlier. If we go ahead and run this query here, you can see that it returns the information. So we can see the buckets, we can see that we uploaded the data, that we put the data into the bucket, that we read the data, the get object here, and then you can also see the delete object. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, AWS doesn't show you the name of the file that was deleted when it was done through the console. But if you delete the file via the CLI, the AWS CLI, then it does give you the file name. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that. So I'm going to go and open up Cloud Shell here. And then once that loads here, I'm just going to go ahead and list the bucket to make sure it's all working. And we can see that we do have the remaining files from our bucket. There's 3 here. And then I'm going to go ahead and type in this command. And this command here will delete this file, deleteme.txt. We'll go ahead and run that. And as you can see, we get a confirmation it's been deleted. If we go back to the bucket and do a refresh, we can see that it has been deleted. And then let's give CloudWatch here a moment, and then we should be able to see the name of the file that was deleted. Okay, so my log's finally updated, and as you can see, we do have the delete object event with the deleteme.txt file. So we have the name of the file that we deleted, and we can see that the user agent was the AWS CLI because we used it from the Cloud Shell. So I'm not really sure why AWS does this, because as we deleted that object earlier right here, we just have a blank for the file name. So anytime you delete something from S3 via the console, you don't actually see the file name. But if you do delete it via the AWS CLI, it does show up here. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.